We have got one heck of a show planned for you today. We've got the left and Don Lemon, full of his expletive-laden, ignorant monologue. This show that nobody watches, that seems to suggest that nobody voted for these deportations. I've got the receipts on that. I don't know where these people were the last number of years, including during the election. We've got the Supreme Court. Congratulations, women out there. You are so close to not having to look at a male penis in your women's locker rooms again. That's incredible. It's just, this is one of those days where you just get so excited to get behind the microphone because it's all victories all day. And then, we've got the left giving Scott Adams, right? The Dilbert creator, the old Charlie Kirk treatment. These people are disgusting. Absolutely reprehensible people. And then we've got the Clintons, of course, the Clinton crime family that isn't showing up for their subpoena. They are defying it, and we know where that leads to prison. That's where they put Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. And then, of course, we've got the Secret Service. James O'Keefe went and undercover and spoke to someone on Vice President Vance's security detail that basically has no problem with the vice president being compromised and killed. So a lot to get to today. But first, let's talk about the deportation promise that Trump gave us and the incredulity. Is that the word? Incredulity of the left that thinks that we don't want this. Now, first, let me play Don Lemon, and I just got to warn you, he drops F-bombs because Don Lemon is not a particularly intelligent person. As a matter of fact, he's one of the dumbest people out there. And people who are complete R-word retards, they have to resort to a bunch of F-bombs because they don't have the brains to make a coherent argument. So here is Don Lemon first.
Is this what you voted for, MAGA? You fucking idiots. Is this what you voted for? Why would you even want this job? Is your ego and your penis, are they that small that you feel that you have to harass people in order to feel like a man or to feel strong? Is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Don Lemon, this is exactly what we voted for. Not just us, but the majority of the American people agree overwhelmingly that these illegals should be deported from this country. Now, Don Lemon fancies himself a media man, right? I mean, he was fired because he's a disgrace. And obviously, you can see there's no reason to listen to somebody like that. But let me just take a trip down memory lane, Don Lemon, because both of these clips I'm going to play were readily available, and they preceded Donald Trump's inauguration. Here's the first.
You know, we have a lot of the campaign rhetoric, speaking of what people say they would do. You've seen the Trump campaign talking about mass deportations. We tested that in a general way in principle. Would you support a new government program that would deport all people living in the U.S. illegally? And that finds majority favor. That finds 6 in 10. It's strongest among folks who are MAGA. It's strongest among Trump supporters, but also from some Democrats as well. And I think that speaks to the general idea, not just that people see the border as a crisis, but also where we are in the campaign, where a lot of very dramatic or new proposals out there are finding favor here.
Well, Don, there you have it. Yes. As a matter of fact, not only did I vote for this as a Trump supporter, but other Democrats support this policy as well. And I would remind you that Donald Trump did not act like a leftist, a Marxist, like Democrats who run every time to the center when they're running for election. They feign that they're some sort of centrist. They're not the radical leftist revolutionaries that they are. We don't do that. And Donald Trump in particular didn't do that. He ran on exactly what he's doing now. Listen to Donald Trump while he was running for re-election.
On that same day, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And as part of Operation Aurora, you know all about Aurora, how horrible that's been. Every single foreign gang and illegal alien member, all of this criminal network operating on American soil will be dismantled, deported, and destroyed. Going to get them out.
There's nothing confusing there. He doesn't mince words. He doesn't say, no, I'm not going to deport people. He says he's going to carry out the biggest deportation operation in American history. And that's exactly what he's doing. So yes, Don Lemon, I voted for this. And many Democrats, in fact, support this as well. This is a immensely popular move. And we understand that the Democrat Party cannot abide the deportation of illegals because you have hitched your future political wagon to illegals voting for you in perpetuity. That's right. We know what it's called, replacement theory. So there's nothing confusing there. So don't fall for the propaganda, folks. Trump has my full-throated support and the full-throated support of the American people as he continues to carry out these deportations of illegals. And you don't have to come here and commit murder as an illegal to be deported. The fact that you're here illegally at all is a criminal act. So sorry for you. Elections have consequences. Isn't that what the Democrats always say? Elections have consequences. Didn't Obama tell us that and other Democrats? That's right. Well, you know, we won. Sorry. But of course, the Democrats, they have to try and delegitimize their opponents when they lose. And that's exactly what they're doing now. They cannot accept the election results that just took place. They refuse to accept them. That's what this entire Democrat Party revolution, resistance machine is all about. It's about asserting themselves as insurrectionists who reject the will of the American people. Go and win an election. Then let's have another conversation. But I want to move into the gender theorists getting wrecked at SCOTUS because it is such a beautiful thing to behold. It's incredible to see what's happened to the Democrat Party, is it not? Any Democrats out there listening? You know, aren't you the OG feminist there? Right? All about women's rights. Well, what about women's rights when it comes to participating in athletic competitions? You seem to not care at all about women's rights. You want to see men in skirts take away their trophies, take away their opportunities. And my, oh my, here I am, Mr. MAGA, Drew Allen, the Millennial Minister of Truth, who is a supporter of women and women's rights. That's right. I am the real feminist in this world. You know, this gender theory stuff is probably the most overtly ridiculous idea that the Democrat Party has embraced. The biological reality that there are two sexes, male and female, is not a revolutionary concept. It's a matter of fact and science. And only a leftist, a deranged, mentally ill leftist would come up with this idea that you can choose your gender, that gender and sex are different things. You can be born a man, but you can assert that you are a woman. And if you feel like a woman, even though you're a man, you should therefore be able to participate in women's athletic competitions because you say so. Such utter insanity. But to put this full insanity on display, I want to play a clip first from Congress. They had testimony, and they asked a doctor if a man could have a baby. Can a man have a baby? Let me just ask you that first. Can a man have a baby? What's the answer to that question? Is it complicated? No. Men cannot have babies. And yet the left cannot answer the question. Watch this.
Ms. Verma, can men get pregnant?
Dr. Verma,
Yes.
I just want to make sure we're
Dr.
all
Verma,
addressing
can
each
men
other
get
with
pregnant?
respect.
As a doctor, give me your opinion. As a doctor, can men get pregnant?
I mean,
I'll move on to the next one. Is doctor, can men get pregnant? I know you're a lawyer, an AG, like I was an AG. Can men get pregnant?
no.
I don't know. I don't know. It's such a hard question. I'm a doctor. I'm stumped. Can men have babies? Maybe. Maybe. I just want to hop in here because I appreciate people that watch and participate. Mr. Zaluz says, greetings to you, brother or sister. And that's right. By the way, you leftists out there who hate my guts, I still view you as my brother and sister in America. And I'm going to get into more of the gender theory stuff and the SCOTUS in a minute, but, you know, I wrote an op-ed. I don't know where it's going to be placed yet. But I was thinking about marriages and the dissolution of marriages, which too many people, sadly, are familiar with. And, the most common legal jargon for these marriages that fail is what? What do you file? What's the legal term? Irreconcilable differences, right? Do we not have irreconcilable differences right now in this country? When you have a Biden administration in 2021 whose archivist officially classified the founding documents, that would be the Declaration of Independence and our U.S. Constitution, he slapped them with a harmful language label. That's right. Those founding documents are dangerous. How do you coexist with a partner that would be a Democrat in this country that believes the founding documents themselves are illegitimate? How is it that you coexist with a partner, the Democrat Party and left in this country, when they believe that men can have babies, when they believe that you can choose your own gender, when they want and believe fervently, as they're doing right now in front of the Supreme Court, much to their own humiliation, when they assert that biological males have a right to compete against biological females in athletic competitions? How do you coexist? How does that marriage continue to work? It cannot. The fact that New York Mayor Mamdani, AOC, and the Democrat Party writ large today embrace socialism. Socialism is antithetical to Americanism. They cannot exist together. The greatness of America is built on the U.S. Constitution, which asserts that what? And the Declaration of Independence, which asserts what? That our rights don't come from man, they come from God, our creator. Socialism doesn't believe that. They are collectivists. They believe that our rights are divvied out at the discretion of the government. These two beliefs cannot coexist. And yet we cannot get divorced, can we? So what are our options? What are our options? I just want you to think about that. Because we have irreconcilable differences in this country between the left and right. They cannot be resolved, but we are stuck together. So what are we supposed to do? But let's continue with the deranged left. I mean, it's hard to imagine being a Democrat. And these are the people representing you. This is your belief system. Your party believes this, that men can have babies and they cannot define a woman. Listen to how ridiculous this is. I've got a number of clips to play, but listen to Justice Samuel Alito absolutely destroy an ACL lawyer who is trying to argue that it is discriminatory not to allow biological males to compete with women.
For a category of students classified as boys and a category of students classified as girls.
Yes, Your Honor.
If it does that, then is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court, and we don't.
She does not have a definition for the court of what it means to be a man or a woman? Excuse me, this is not rocket science. But of course, they have to eradicate any definitions whatsoever to push forward this absurd view that biological males, simply because they want to be women, should be able to compete in women's sports. And by the way, you will never, ever find a biological woman bringing a lawsuit against the federal government or anyone else because she is being robbed of the right to compete against men. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because biological males in athletic competitions are physically superior. That is a biological fact. You're not going to find a WNBA player, no matter how talented they are, playing with women that is competitive enough or athletic enough or strong enough to play in the NBA. That is simply a biological fact. And what you have here with these transgender athletes, men who want to compete with women, not only are they mentally ill, but these people cannot compete to their preference, to their liking with men. They're not good enough. And so they want to go and exploit the emotion of ignorant people out there so that they can go and feel like they are victorious by beating up on a bunch of women. What kind of society tolerates this? What kind of society tolerates this? Not this one, folks, because it's about over for this transgender gender theory insanity. Women, congratulations. A beautiful new day is ahead for you where you are going to be protected again, that your rights will be preserved because of MAGA, not because of the Democrat Party. They don't care about you. Now, listen to this. Here's Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is the latest DEI appointment on the Supreme Court from the Biden administration, who asserted before he ever chose her that his criteria for appointing a Supreme Court justice was what? They needed to be a black woman. And therefore, by Joe Biden's own admission, she's on the court, not because she is capable. As you will hear in a minute, she's not capable. She's dumber than any single person listening to this show right now. She's on the court for one reason and one reason only. She's a black woman. Listen to her.
Is that right?
I think to some degree, but it's also, Your Honor, it's just because we're indifferent to a person's gender identity and applying the law.
But the law actually operates differently, I think, for cisgender women and transgender women. That is, with respect to their desire to play on a team that matches their gender identity.
Listen to that key word, their desire. They're arguing that your desire should determine what team you should play on. If you desire to play and beat up a bunch of women, you simply claim that you are not a cisgender woman. You know what? Cisgender doesn't exist, by the way. I mean, this is a made-up term by the gender theorists who are deranged. I'm cisgender because my gender, which can be selected according to these people, matches my biological reality, which is I got a penis. Okay? So I'm cisgender because it aligns. But if I wanted to go and compete against a bunch of women, well, then my gender could be female, even if my biological identity was male. Is it insane that we even have to spend one episode of the show talking about this? That we live in a country, the greatest country in the history of mankind, where this is even being entertained as reality? Incredible. But anyway, the end is near for these individuals. They totally got wrecked. I want to play another clip here, again, of Ketanji Brown Jackson exposing herself as stupid.
You have the overarching classification, everybody has to be, play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that, okay, so as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
yes,
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from
No, I
passing over
appreciate
me when
that.
consistent with their
I
judgment.
appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of who we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
And
yeah, no SHI. Shh. Yes, that's right. Only people who are born women can play women's sports. Only men who are born men can play men's sports. Why is this so hard for you to understand? Anyway, that's enough time on the gender issue. We know where this is headed. It's over for them. Sanity is about to prevail. Sanity is about to prevail. So I want to talk about Scott Adams. He was the Dilbert creator. And, you know, circa 2016, I believe it was, he came out as a vocal Trump supporter. And it killed his career. They claim that his controversial statement was that there are black people in this country who are racist against white people. That's absolutely a fact that exists. Racism doesn't go one way. He didn't say anything controversial at all. There absolutely is anti-white discrimination and racism in this country. And it's proliferated by the Democrat Party, no matter the race of the individual. You know, the entire Obama administration and philosophy was anti-white. It was that we were a bunch of oppressors because of our skin color. What do you think DEI is about? What do you think the entire Democrat agenda today is about? It's completely race-based. They are discriminatory while claiming they're not. But I want to pull up the headline. People Magazine, this was just one of the many outlets out there that did this. Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. Dilbert was pulled from wide circulation after Adams' racist rant in 2020. I told you what the rant was. It wasn't racist at all. And so that's the headline. And I'm sure you'll be shocked. I mean, just try and imagine. I'm going to pull this headline back up. Read this headline again together. Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. So this guy just died after a long battle with cancer. He lived much longer than he expected to. He bought himself a lot of time. He was so gracious. He was a wonderful human being by all measures. And that's the headline. He's not a man deserving respect, somebody who died, who has people who loved him. No, he's a disgraced Dilbert creator. So imagine in your mind what the deranged leftist that would dehumanize and insult a man on the day that his death is announced. Imagine what that person might look like. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Are they fat? Are they skinny? They're certainly not Republicans. They're certainly not conservatives, are they? No, their name is Victoria Edel. Look at this beautiful, beautiful woman. Just a bundle of joy. So much of her to go around. Here's another picture of her. Oh, she's a big New York Mets fan, though. Look at her. Look at her. Don't you want to hang out with that person? Doesn't she look like a bundle of joy? Unmarried. She happens to be queer, I guess, because she wrote an article after the Barbie movie came out for Pop Sugar or something like that, that said that Barbie is, indisputably queer based on her viewing of the movie. These people are so sick. So sick. It's all about pushing forward and forcing their destructive, mentally ill worldview on the rest of us. Incredible. So anyway, that's what the left did to them. It's just unreal. It's unreal. Charlie Kirk's assassinated, and they make jokes about his neck spewing blood. They reenact the assassination. You go online, you post anything, you'll get all kinds of comments from people that are celebrating his death. Like I said, irreconcilable differences. Can we live with these people that want us all dead? How are we going to coexist with people that want us dead, that celebrate after someone dies? Even somebody as great as Scott Adams, who contributed so much joy to society with his comics. But the fact alone that he came out as a Trump supporter, well, that negates his humanity. And I hope people are willing to acknowledge now that this is what the left's overarching ideology is. That's not to say that every single Democrat feels this way, but the ideology itself is breeding this, because you don't have this on the other side. And this is celebrated. This is coming. I mean, People magazine chose to write that headline. And there were other places too. All right, I want to get into another story about what the Secret Service, and this will get into, again, the fundamental idea that the left, they just cannot, they view us as their enemy to be destroyed. Plain and simple. That's the only way I can put that. But first, what do 3 billionaires, 4 major banks, and a legendary 72-year-old investor all have in common? They're all making the same shocking prediction. Gold is headed for $10,000 or more. Goldman Sachs says gold will surge 20%. JP Morgan says 25%. And one respected economist now believes the U.S. government could deliberately raise gold's official price to help pay off the national debt. And the world's wealthiest players are already making their move. Now you can see exactly what they're seeing for free. Our friends at American Alternative Assets just released a powerful new report, The Surprising Case for Gold, for $10,000 gold. It breaks down the hidden signals, the central bank gold buying spree, and how smart Americans are protecting their retirement with gold right now. Go to cloutgold.com to download it free, or call 855-803-GOLD. Don't wait. The window is closing fast. Before I get into this final story about the Secret Service, which is an unfathomable, dangerous, it should scare every American out there, and it should scare you if you're a Democrat or Republican. Either way. You know, people in this government working for the Secret Service, which of course is a protective detail, their goal is to protect the life of government officials, the president, and in this case, the vice president. And they are so radicalized, and they have experienced such brain rot that they cannot even do that apolitical job. That's where we're at. But I just want you to listen to Ilhan Omar first, because, by the way, we found out that the police officer, the ICE officer agent who was run over by Renee Good, who was shot in self-defense, and she died while protesting, staging a protest against ICE. She was a trained ICE protester. Well, he suffered internal bleeding. And we had the mayor, Jacob Frey, and others in the media tell us that, he just, skipped away. She was just innocent, trying to flee the crime scene, which is a crime in itself, by the way. You can't do that. If a cop pulls you over, if a federal agent pulls you over and asks you to comply and do something, if you try and just drive away, you're in violation of the law as well. There's no way to look at this that Renee Good is not responsible for what happened to her. But listen to Ilhan Omar. So I told you, I guess on Monday or yesterday, I guess it was, on this show, I went through the list of 10 to 13 individuals that had been apprehended in Minnesota, many of them in Minneapolis, that city itself, by ICE, that was released by the DHS, of painting a picture for you of who these people are arresting. And they are illegals, not just illegals, but they are individuals who've committed acts of sodomy against young girls and boys. And they have also committed acts of murder. They're gang members. Many of them are from Laos, which is not a Latino country, by the way. And these are the people being apprehended. We know this for a fact. And yet here's Ilhan Omar, even after we know that information.
They have not been able to tell us what is the purpose for this search. They haven't been able to produce any evidence that they are finding people who are undocumented, who have committed crimes. Almost every single person that they have information and shared information with us has been someone that has already been adjudicated and was already in prison. And so there's no way to justify what they are doing. It is unleashing complete terror on the residents of Minnesota.
No, it's you and your ilk and the Joe Biden auto-pen administration that unleashed this on the American people by permitting such illicit activity from taking place, an unprecedented invasion of this country. And none of these people have a right to be here. And the sheer number and volume of the illegals that are here are directly harming the future and the lives of American citizens. We're a sovereign nation, and no one has the right to just come in and take advantage of us. And of course, she speaks for the Somali community because she married her brother to come over here. And the Somali community, which is responsible for 90% of the fraud in Minnesota. And she has the audacity to sit there and advocate for criminal illegals to be on our streets. And she has the audacity to gaslight and try and pretend that the information that is available isn't available. It's unreal. But like I said, 2/3 of voters support mass deportation. So we could care less what you think, Ilhan Omar. We support your deportation as well. And, CNN went so far as, this is really despicable in a way they operate. But I want to play this clip from CNN. CNN got a hold of the former one of the father-in-laws of Renee Good, and they tried to goad him into condemning ICE. Listen to this.
No, nothing about charges or anything that, just an investigation into what happened in terms of the ICE agents' actions. But they were, according to the prosecutors resigning today, pressuring them to investigate Renee's actions and Becca, her wife's actions. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I'm not blaming anybody. It's a hard situation all the way around. It's hard for for everybody involved. The ICE agent, at first I didn't see the footage where, he was actually, he was actually being ran. I seen the bump of the car hitting his legs. And so in a flash like that, it's hard to say how you would react. From my understanding that he had been through that before, maybe dragged or something. And so, like I said, it's just a hard situation for everybody. Becca, she's a great person as well. I don't have any many enemies. I love everybody, and that's what the Bible tells us: love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But I think there's some bad choices, and the word says, "For the wrath of God will come upon the children of disobedience." And it's I don't blame ICE. I don't blame Rebecca. I don't blame Renee. I just wish that if we're walking the Spirit of God, I don't think she would have been there. That's the way I look at it.
What an incredible guy. He knows exactly what CNN wants him to do. He obviously has a degree of affection for Renee Good, as she is his former daughter-in-law, more so than anybody at CNN or anybody on the left reacting to this, or even me reacting to this. And his response is so level-headed. Look, this is a terrible thing that happened. I wish it hadn't happened. Some terrible decisions were made, and he ended by saying that, she shouldn't have been there. She wouldn't have been there if better decisions were made, and he's exactly right. And he's not blaming anybody. He's just prayerful. He's Bible-based. He's putting this in the hands of God. And that's a remarkable person to do that and respond that way. I cannot tell you, CNN is used to getting these people on there that are, radical. And by the way, I would probably presume that, that guy's probably conservative. You don't have leftists go on TV and quote scripture, for one. And, usually these people want to be useful idiots to the left. They want to go on there like David Hogg and get a lot of attention for themselves. And this guy didn't do that. And my hat's off to him. My hat's off to him. All right, so I want to read this story with you just to close out here. Well, I got two stories, but let's get the Secret Service story covered, and then let's finish off with the Clinton crime family that now, based on their own rules, must go to prison. So the Secret Service agent assigned to J.D. Vance, well, he's been placed on leave after an alleged security leak. Here's what happened. James O'Keefe went undercover, and or not James O'Keefe, but somebody who works for James O'Keefe, a woman, went undercover, and this agent blabbed about sensitive details of his job to the undercover woman. And the Secret Service agent has been identified as Tomas Escoto. He had his security clearance suspended and access to agency facilities and systems revoked pending an internal investigation. I want you to listen to how outrageous this is. In a 14-minute video that was posted on X by O'Keefe, Escoto disclosed details of how Vance and his family are shielded from danger, including protective formations, shift schedules, travel plans, and real-time locations. In addition to past movements, the agent revealed future travel plans, sometimes days in advance. Escoto even sent images from Air Force Two while on board with the vice president. Despite acknowledging that he signed paperwork prohibiting the disclosure of sensitive information, the Secret Service agent repeatedly shared details with someone he believed was a casual romantic interest. In this video, it also included a text message purportedly sent by Escoto to the woman on December 26th, in which he told her that Vance would be in Ohio for like 4 to 5 days before traveling on to Florida next weekend. Now, this obviously has real-world consequences. You might recall that a deranged transgender leftist broke windows at the vice president's home in Ohio. It's unfathomable that you would blab to somebody about the location and future location and travel plans to tell them how you protect. I mean, you don't do this. You don't do, and I wouldn't want this for Barack Obama. I wouldn't want this for Kamala Harris. I wouldn't want this even for Tim Walz. You know, there's a reason we want these people protect. I mean, imagine what happens to society if you just have our leaders assassinated like they did Charlie Kirk. Can you imagine the hell that would break loose? I mean, we've already came close with Donald Trump, with his near assassination. We feel it still with Charlie Kirk. I feel it. And you have a Secret Service agent that can't put his politics aside, that's willing to go and talk about these sensitive details that put someone's life in danger, not just anybody's life, the Vice President of the United States. So he told this person who was undercover, but imagine that wasn't somebody who was one of the good guys that was going to report this. Imagine he told somebody who actually wanted Vice President Vance dead. Imagine if that had happened. This has to stop. This has to stop. And by the way, I am going to plug the book For Christ and Country, The Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk behind me, because this is exactly what I address in the book. I address specifically left-wing violence, specifically how we got here, the spiritual rot, this moral relativism that is so pervasive in this country, predominantly from the left, specifically, uniquely from the left, as a matter of fact, that is putting our lives and the vice president's life in danger, and it needs to stop. I won't tolerate it anymore, and you shouldn't tolerate it anymore either. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. I think we should be able to agree on a few things. One, there's male and female. There's men and women. There's a biological reality. You're not a woman because you desire to be a woman. You can't go and compete with women as a man because you can't make the cut with men and you want to go beat up on women. Can we not agree on that as a society? Apparently not. Can we agree that the Secret Service should not be going and blabbing details about the vice president, about his location, about where he's going to be, about how he's protected? They could give people insight into how to exploit the Secret Service and kill somebody, God forbid? Can we agree on these things or not? Apparently not. So that's just amazing. I mean, January 5th, that's when you had the William DeFore, the transgender person that was arrested after he smashed windows of the VP's Cincinnati residence with a hammer. hours after the second family departed for Washington. Imagine if the vice president had been there. All right, I want to finish with this. The Clintons are defying a congressional subpoena. And I just want to play for you really briefly MS Now, formerly MSNBC, their coverage of Peter Navarro going to prison for the exact same thing.
Some breaking news. We have just in here at MSNBC, former Trump aide Peter Navarro is going to go to prison. He's been ordered to report to federal prison on March 19th. He'll begin his 4-month sentence on contempt of Congress charges for defying a subpoena from the January 6th committee. Navarro has asked a court now to stay his sentence while he appeals.
So he spent, I think, 4 months it was in federal prison. And look, you know, one of Saul Alinsky, who was someone that Hillary Clinton herself admired deeply. He wrote the book Rules for Radicals, which is a communist manifesto of how to foment Marxist revolution in the United States of America. It's the playbook that's being used right now. If you haven't read it, you should. Get familiar with the left's tactics. I do. I read it once a year or as need be. But one of the guiding principles and rules in Rules for Radicals is that you make the enemy live up to their own rules. Well, what did the left do? They put Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon in prison because they defied a congressional subpoena. Well, now Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are both defying a congressional subpoena. No one is above the law, right? So we know what has to be done. They have to be held accountable. If Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon could go to prison because they defied a congressional subpoena, well, then it's only right and it's only fair and it only proves the left's, as they insist, you know, no one's above the law. Well, you're right, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. You're going to have to go to jail. And it's clear as day that you have to do it. You made the rules. Now you have to live by them. So this has to be escalated. This has to be pushed. We cannot live in fear of the left's reaction or their violence anymore. They're going to react how they're going to react, and we know how they're going to react. And ICE, you know, ICE is the de facto fascist shock troops right now. So any encounter with ICE, even if Renee Good or someone else is in the wrong and they put themselves in a position that's unfortunate, but they get killed, we know the left is looking for that as an example. They've already arrived at that conclusion anyway. ICE was evil before the Renee Good incident happened. So they're just going to take these incidents and use it as justification to escalate violence in this country. Well, you better get ready, America and Americans. There's only one way to deal with this sort of insurrection, and that is to hold people accountable. And it's going to get ugly. You know, you may not like the sight of ICE going into our cities, but the only reason they have to do that is because 20 million illegals were let in here under the Biden. Well, because he kind of ran it under the Biden administration. So they created the need for this type of thing. So anyway, that's all we have time for today. Love you guys, genuinely. God bless you all. Hope you're having a great week. What's today? Tuesday. It's almost hump day. No, it is. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I see. I can't even keep track. But genuinely, thank you for listening to this show. We're growing at a rapid pace, and that's thanks to you all. God bless you all. I am Drew Allen, your millennial minister of truth. Until next time.